Welcome to Side Notes. I'm out and about here in Toronto. We're at the David Sparrow campaign launch for War 26. We're talking to a Canadian opera singer slash actor, Constantine Meglis. Thank you so much for your time there, Constantine.
Thank you very much.
You've traveled the world with your singing and everything. You've done Mozart, you've done all the classical stuff. As you were traveling, what did you notice difference about other nations compared to Canada?
Other nations, unfortunately, are a little more well versed in the classics than we are here in Canada. I mean, when we learn nursery rhymes, a lot of them learn tunes from operas and stuff, which is. So here we have it as being something really elite, but it's not in other countries, especially in Europe. It's not considered to be something elite, and it shouldn't be, because it wasn't written as such. It was written as common music for common people in its day. It just happens to be really old. And one of my favorite composers, Mozart, actually used to write whip-off operas weekly that used to play at the equivalent of a cinema. I mean, people would go there on the weekends and listen to what he just wrote. It was just, it was common music for common folk. That's changed, definitely. It's sort of got this elite thing. It was never intended to be that way, though.
When you're performing opera, do you find that you're lost in each note that's being played, each word that you're singing? Do you get lost in the opera itself?
You have to. And as you get more mature as an artist, you have to stop worrying about, take so many years to learn how to do your technique properly, how to support your voice. In opera, we never use microphones. You're supposed to be heard to the back of a theater. Oftentimes, 3,000 seat theater, over 100-piece orchestra with no microphone. It takes a lot of strength and stuff. It takes a lot of years to develop that. So if you consider technique too much while you're singing, you're not doing a good job. And when you truly mature as an artist, you do exactly what you said. You get right into the role and you live exactly what you're saying. You're not thinking, how am I going to get that high note coming up or whatever. That's something that with maturity goes away, hopefully.
And you grew up here in Ontario. You're an Ontario boy,
Yeah.
and grew up from a Greek family. How was it growing up? Growing up in that setting, in regards to, as you're teaching the people around you that may not be understanding of your ethnical roots.
Well, it was quite funny because I actually did grow up in very waspy, I grew up I was born in a very small town, Goderich, Ontario, where we were, despite the fact we were European, we were very different. I don't think there were any Italian, everybody was from the British Isles or German stock and stuff. So I always did feel a little bit different. But we all have common values, I think. I mean, and now, I felt different when I was here, and then when I'm back in Europe, which is where my roots are, I feel like I should be here. This is where I belong. This is where I grew up. This is where I'm born. So, times have really changed as well. I mean, there used to be a time, for instance, my proper name, Constantine, when my grandfather arrived in Halifax in the late 40s after the Second World War, they used to routinely change their names to something that sounded a little more Anglo. So my grandpa's name was Constantine. I'm named after him. They crossed it out and put Gus because that's what they did. And it's funny because a lot of the immigrants of that era in the 50s and the 60s, I'm talking from Southern Europe, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Greeks, they were all so happy to be here. They didn't care. And there was also a lot of, they didn't want you speaking your own language. And the older immigrants from my parents' generation were just much more appreciative of the culture that they had arrived in than, I shouldn't say this, but a lot of the newer sets of immigrants who think they're entitled from the minute they get here. I don't agree with that. I mean, we're all so lucky to be Canadian, and I think one thing I really wish that newer immigrants would do is just leave all their problems back where they were and come here and start fresh and enjoy this beautiful country we have. It's peaceful, and you know, brave veterans like yourself to fight for us, and just be proud to be Canadian and just forget all the crap that happened back home.
Yeah, and also we have to. One thing I love about Toronto itself is the most diverse city in Canada. I mean, you don't have to go far to travel the world. You can go. Each neighborhood has a different ethnical, collection about it, which is beautiful. And you have stories. I know we're at the David Sparrow's fundraiser for him announcing his running for Ward 26. You have some stories to share about David. What is the one thing that sticks out in your mind about David?
The very first day, which is it's just barely over a year ago, when I just finally realized that I'm a full member of ACTRA, because I wasn't aware when I was at the opera that I was able to do films as well. So I was at my orientation for ACTRA, and David actually came in and talked to all the newcomers on the first day, and he actually singled me out from the crowd, and he said, told me to come over here. He said, "Are you here because of that movie Pompeii, which is a movie that opened last summer? Because here's this huge, like, could have been from ancient Rome, whatever, huge monstrous type guy." And I said, "No, I'm not." And he said, "Oh, because they're looking for guys exactly like you." And he actually found me my first acting work in that film Pompeii. He actually phoned the producer for me. Just on first meeting, he didn't have to do that. I thought, wow, what a great guy. And every time I've encountered Dave, he's just an amazing person. He's always thinking of other people. I think how rare this doesn't happen anymore. People are just so into themselves. He's just a totally different type of person, which is why I actually volunteered. I said, "Dave, if you're running, I don't live in your ward. I live downtown, but I'm going to come and sing if you'd like me to." And he said, sure. So he's just been helpful, and not just to me. And if he leaves ACTRA, if he wins with the ward, which I think they're crazy if they don't vote for this guy, but it's going to be our loss. I mean, it's going to be a horrible loss to ACTRA, but hopefully he'll be able to help this community as well as he's helped ACTRA. And just a great guy.
And your website, Constantine?
It's through Casting Workbook, and I can't remember what it's called now. They just changed the name of it. I'm listed on Casting Workbook anyways. I believe under Constantine Meglis at castingworkbook.com.
Are there any words that you want to share in closing here?
Related to the election, or?
Related to looking back over everything that you want to tell people they're just getting involved in, either whether it's acting or opera or some sort of form of artistic role that they want to go into.
Oh, absolutely. Something that interesting that happened to me was one of my mentors tonight was actually a real coup for me. I actually met the son of one of the women who convinced me, very famous singer, opera singer, who's passed away several years ago, by the name of Maureen Forrester. She was a Canadian icon. Her son was here tonight. Came and introduced himself, and I didn't know it was her son, but she was one of the people who told me that I should stick with this. And another famous opera singer that I learned when I was studying in New York that I actually met was Placido Domingo, who was one of the three famous tenors. And he told me, "What are you going to do if you don't make it as an opera singer?" I said, "Well, I think I might go to law school." I had just done a couple of years of university, and I had courses for pre-law. And he said, "You know what? You'll never be an opera singer." I said, "Why?" He said, "Because when you have a goal, you put that goal in front of you," and I mentioned it to someone else here this evening, and you don't worry about how you're going to get there, but you have to be like a horse with blinders on. Don't worry about, and there's a million people going to say, "You can't do it, you can't do it, you can't do it." You just have to put your fingers in your ears and don't listen. Just look for the final goal, and you'll make it. I mean, every famous person in any genre that I've met had so many detractors, like famous actors who said, people telling them, "You'll never make it. Are you crazy? You're going to be an actor?" Yeah, it's the crazy ones that don't listen to anyone who actually become successful. So that's my piece of advice for everyone.
Thank you so much for your time, Constantine.
Yeah, very nice meeting you.